Sleep is a fundamental biological imperative, essential for our survival and well-being. It is a process that we, and most life forms, dedicate a significant portion of our lives to, often without fully understanding its complexities. Yet the precise reasons why we sleep still hold elements of mystery for science, despite extensive research and numerous theories. We know it is restorative and plays a critical role in memory consolidation, learning and emotional regulation, impacting our daily lives in profound ways. It helps cleanse the brain of metabolic byproducts accumulated during wakefulness, ensuring our cognitive functions remain sharp. This essay chronicles a deliberate journey into the realm of sleep deprivation, exploring the boundaries of human endurance. It is an account of what it feels like to remain awake for a continuous 48-hour period, pushing the limits of the mind and body. The motivation was to gain a deeper understanding of the profound impact that sleep, or the lack thereof, has on every facet of our being, from mental clarity to emotional stability. Over the course of this narrative, we will explore the progressive changes that unfold, documenting the subtle and overt transformations. We will examine the immediate cognitive shifts, the physical symptoms, and the emotional turbulence that accompanies prolonged wakefulness, shedding light on the critical importance of sleep. The discoveries made during these 48 hours reaffirm the non-negotiable necessity of sleep for optimal functioning, highlighting its indispensable role in our lives. The experiment began with a mixture of resolve and trepidation. The decision to remain awake for 48 consecutive hours was made. The final night of normal sleep preceding this period felt particularly precious. The clock ticked past midnight, marking hour zero, the official commencement of this journey. The initial hours, from midnight through to the early morning, felt deceptively normal. Having had a full night's rest prior, the body's circadian rhythm was still firmly in its wakeful phase. Simple tasks were performed with ease and conversation flowed naturally. To aid the process of staying awake, a loose plan of activities was formulated. This included reading, writing, light physical exercise, and engaging in puzzles or tasks requiring mental focus. The environment was kept well lit and stimulating to counteract natural sleep cues. Subtle reminders of the body's needs began to surface as the morning wore on. As the clock ticked past the 16 to 18-hour mark, the initial resilience began to wane. The brain, which had been working tirelessly, started to show signs of fatigue. Beyond this point, cognitive performance starts to decline noticeably. Tasks that were once simple now seemed daunting. Studies show that being awake for 18 hours can impair cognitive functions to a degree comparable to having a blood alcohol concentration of 0.05%. Simple tasks now demanded increased concentration. The brain was clearly beginning to protest the lack of its usual restorative period. A personal manifestation of this decline occurred while attempting to follow a recipe. Ingredients were misread and steps were nearly missed. Frustration began to bubble up as the brain struggled to process information efficiently. Concentration was becoming a scarce commodity. The brain's processing speed was slowing, a clear indication of its diminishing operational capacity. As the first 24-hour mark approached, microsleeps became a significant challenge. These are brief, involuntary episodes of sleep that can last from a fraction of a second to several seconds. The battle to maintain continuous focus became an arduous task. The brain, deprived of its much-needed rest, was now in a state of protest. Every action required more effort, and every thought seemed to lag. The once seamless flow of ideas and actions was now disrupted, making even the simplest tasks feel like monumental challenges. The brain's processing speed was slowing, a clear indication of its diminishing operational capacity. As the first 24-hour mark approached, microsleeps became a significant challenge. These are brief, involuntary episodes of sleep that can last from a fraction of a second to several seconds. The battle to maintain continuous focus became an arduous task. The brain, deprived of its much-needed rest, was now in a state of protest. Every action required more effort, and every thought seemed to lag. Once the 24-hour milestone was crossed, the cognitive landscape transformed into a far more challenging terrain. Decision-making abilities became significantly impaired. Simple choices felt monumental, and the capacity for complex problem-solving dwindled. Memory, particularly short-term recall, suffered a substantial blow. The brain's intricate machinery for learning and information processing was clearly operating well below its optimal capacity. Misplacing everyday items like keys or a phone became a recurrent event. Trying to engage in any task that required sustained mental effort felt overwhelmingly difficult. Communication also became a casualty of this extended wakefulness. Articulating thoughts clearly and coherently grew increasingly difficult. Beyond the cognitive effects, the physical toll of eschewing sleep for over 24 hours began to manifest. A persistent, dull headache settled in, muscles ached as if after strenuous exercise, a general feeling of malaise permeated the body, limbs felt heavy, and simple movements required more effort than usual. The immune system is significantly compromised by a lack of sleep. Even one night of insufficient sleep can weaken immune responses. A peculiar and uncomfortable physical sensation was feeling persistently cold. Simple actions like picking up a pen or pouring a drink became slightly precarious. Sleep deprivation throws our delicate hormonal balance into disarray. This hormonal shift often leads to intense cravings for high-calorie, sugary, and fatty foods. The emotional landscape during prolonged sleep deprivation is notoriously volatile. One of the brain regions most affected by a lack of sleep is the amygdala. Without sufficient sleep, the amygdala can become hyperactive, leading to exaggerated emotional responses. Small setbacks or minor irritations can trigger strong feelings of frustration or distress. I found myself becoming easily agitated by trivial matters. There were moments of unexpected tearfulness, quickly followed by an inappropriate sense of amusement. This emotional lability made for an unsettling internal experience. The usual emotional equilibrium was lost, replaced by a jarring seesaw of highs and lows. The impact on social interactions can be considerable. A sleep-deprived individual may find it harder to empathize with others or accurately read social cues. The nuanced dance of social engagement becomes a clumsy stumble. Approaching and finally crossing the 48-hour threshold marked an entry into a state of profound and severe sleep deprivation. All the symptoms experienced earlier intensified considerably. The world began to take on a distinctly surreal quality. There was an overwhelming sense of exhaustion that permeated every cell of the body. This was no longer a mere challenge of willpower, it was a confrontation with the body's absolute limits. At this advanced stage, more severe perceptual and cognitive disturbances can occur. While I did not experience full-blown hallucinations, there were moments of disorientation. Sounds sometimes seemed unusually loud or distorted. Some individuals report mild visual or auditory hallucinations. This stage underscores the serious nature of pushing the boundaries of wakefulness. My personal experience was one of an almost dreamlike state while awake. The boundary between internal thought and external reality felt thinner. The brain's desperate attempts to force a shutdown became increasingly evident. Finally, after 48 relentless hours of wakefulness, the decision was made to end the experiment and succumb to sleep. The feeling was one of immense relief, mixed with profound anticipation. There was no struggle to fall asleep. Consciousness was extinguished almost instantly. The recovery sleep that followed was exceptionally deep and long. Sleep scientists refer to this as rebound sleep. The brain prioritizes the types of sleep it has missed most acutely. Waking up after this extended recovery sleep was an interesting experience. Initially, there was a profound sense of grogginess, known as sleep inertia. However, as the minutes passed, this grogginess began to lift, replaced by a returning sense of mental clarity. It often takes several nights of consistent, good-quality sleep to fully restore the body and mind. Reflecting upon the 48-hour journey without sleep, the most profound takeaway is the undeniable importance of this nightly ritual. Sleep is not just a break from our daily activities, it is a vital process that rejuvenates our body and mind. The experiment served as a stark demonstration of how rapidly our well-being deteriorates when sleep is denied. The physical and mental toll becomes evident almost immediately. In a society that sometimes glorifies busyness, we often overlook the critical role sleep plays in maintaining our health. This experience reinforces that going without adequate sleep is a significant detriment to our health. It affects our productivity, mood, and overall quality of life. Sleep is not merely a passive state of rest, it is an essential biological process that our bodies depend on. During sleep, our brains process information, consolidate memories, and perform critical maintenance tasks. Denying ourselves sufficient sleep is akin to denying ourselves other fundamental necessities. It is as crucial as food and water. Beyond the immediate impacts of acute sleep deprivation, it is crucial to remember the serious long-term consequences of chronic sleep deficiency. Consistently failing to get enough sleep increases the risk of developing serious health problems. These include cardiovascular diseases, metabolic disorders, and a weakened immune system. Our bodies become more susceptible to infections and illnesses. Chronic sleep loss is linked to an increased risk of mental health conditions, such as anxiety and depression. Cultivating good sleep hygiene is essential. This includes maintaining a regular sleep schedule, creating a restful environment, and avoiding stimulants before bed. Cherishing and protecting our sleep is one of the most effective investments we can make in our health and well-being. Prioritizing sleep can lead to a happier, healthier life. So let us all commit to giving sleep the importance it truly deserves.